All right. The first thing that we're going to do is bring in juror number 12. All rise for the juror, please. Thank you. You may all be seated. Court will recall 20 CR 1358, People versus Letecia Stauch. Record should reflect that juror number 12 has returned to the courtroom. Good morning. I'm sorry to have brought you down again, but I wanted to think about this over the weekend. I also wanted to talk with the lawyers a little bit. And it was late on Friday when we did that. I know that you were waiting and I had some other matters that I had to deal with, so I just didn't want you to be waiting there. I think that in this circumstance, I am going to excuse you from further service in this case. The law requires that I do it in front of the attorneys, the defendant, and in an open court. That's why I didn't call you. So I'm sorry that you had to come down. I do have a final instruction for you with a caveat. The instruction is that your service in this case is being concluded. You no longer have any further obligation in this case. You may now talk to anyone you wish, including the attorneys and parties, about this case. You may tell them as much or as little as you like about the case. Whether you do so or not is entirely up to you. If you decide not to discuss the case, your decision will undoubtedly be respected. However, if an attorney or party persists in discussing the case over your objection or becomes critical of your services as a juror, please report that incident to me. The caveat is, as you know, we've taken some steps to make sure that all the jurors remain anonymous. The only people who know who you are the other jurors, the attorneys, and I. So the caveat is you're prohibited from disclosing to anyone else who the other jurors are, and that's to respect their privacy. But again, at this point in time, you can talk to anybody. Aside from that, you can talk to anybody that you want. You can tell them as much as you like or as little as you like. In addition, Mr. Combs has, do we have that printed off yet? Okay. Mr. Combs has some information for you. If you have questions about that, give us a call. It's a difficult case. I know that those are services that we offer to every juror in every case. I also have a certificate of appreciation for your service. It's not much. It is all that we can offer. It is important, however, because it does serve as a symbol of your service in this case. In addition, El Paso County has a policy whereby if you are called down and serve as a juror, and then you are called in the next 12 months, you can call the jury commissioner and explain that you were on a jury in the past 12 months, and they'll excuse you without you ever having to come down. Remember those questions when I asked when we first started, have you ever been on a jury in the last 12 months? So this certificate has my name on it, the case number for this case, and the date of your service. You give any one of those three things to Commissioner Maestas, she should be able to look up your service and excuse you. So with that, make sure that you have everything out of the jury room. Any notes that you have, you need to give to Mr. Combs. They will be immediately destroyed. We're not going to distribute them, do anything with them. They're destroyed immediately. So just make sure that you have everything. And again, thank you for your service. And I know that you might have a feeling that you didn't get to sit all the way through, and you made it this far. You put this much time and effort into it. What I want to tell you is you did the right thing. That's what this process is all about. So I don't want you to feel bad about that. Okay? You did the right thing. Okay? All rise for the juror, please. Thank you. You may all be seated. So at this point in time, do we need to have Ms. Bell resume her seat on the witness stand? Is that where we're going? Okay. All right. Ms. Bell, I remind you, ma'am, that you're still under oath. All rise for the jury, please.
Didn't know if you asked me. I'm trying to take care of this. So
Okay.
I'll
Well,
line them up.
yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
All four.
All rise for the jury. Yep, there we go. Thank you. You may all be seated. Court will recall 20 CR 1358, People versus Letecia Stauch. Record should reflect the jury has returned to the courtroom. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Again, we're going to start the day with a question. Has anything occurred since we were last together that causes any of you to believe you could not continue to act as a fair and impartial juror in this case? If so, please raise your hand. No response. Okay. You might notice that we have one juror less today than we did last Friday. You shouldn't draw any conclusions or anything from that. That juror was no longer able to serve in this case. So it does bring up something I want to talk to you about a little bit. And that is you guys can rearrange. I know that I always feel bad for the people that are sitting down there in the pit. So if you want to, you guys can stay in the same seats that you're in if you want to do that. That's fine. It doesn't matter to me one way or the other. The other thing that you can do if you want to talk about it, you could all move down. That would put you up on the same level with everybody else. And our juror number 20 could move back into that back seat. You would be higher up. It's also up to you. So I give you that option. If you want to stay the way that you are, that's okay too. But this way we have a little bit more room to play with. So I'll just leave it at that. When we took our break on Friday, we were in the midst of Ms. Bell's testimony. That's where we will resume today with that. Mr. Young?
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Ms. Bell.
Good morning.
There's a couple questions that I forgot to ask you on Friday, okay? So I want to cover those with you this morning. Is that all right?
Yes.
Back on both searches on January 29th, 2020, as well as February 21st, 2020, did you locate any shell casings in the residence?
No cartridge cases were located during any of my searches.
If you would have found expended cartridge cases, would you have collected those?
Yes, they would have been collected and placed into evidence.
During the course of the February 21st, 2020 search, did you also collect several prescription medication bottles?
I did. I believe it was 5 prescription bottles.
And do you know those? Do you have your report with you?
I do, if I may refer to it.
I figured you might, since you probably didn't know I was going to ask you these questions. And it's bait page 0398. It's 2 of 6 of your February 21st report.
Correct. Yes, I do have that.
What items did you actually collect and submit into evidence?
I will do my best to say these names and not butcher them. But I collected a prescription bottle of Perigo, I believe is how you pronounce this, that was prescribed to Letecia Stauch. I collected a prescription bottle of colchicine that was prescribed to Eugene Stauch. I collected a prescription bottle of lisdexamfetamine that was prescribed to Gannon Stauch. I collected a prescription bottle of amoxicillin prescribed to Harley Hunt, and a prescription bottle of doxycycline, which was indicated it was for a canine.
And did you collect and submit into evidence every prescription bottle you found in the entire residence?
The ones I collected on that day, I don't know that every single prescription bottle was collected and submitted into evidence.
Did you see a prescription for hydrocodone while you were doing this search on February 21st, 2020?
I don't recall offhand without reviewing photographs.
If you would have saw a prescription of that, would you have collected it?
I believe I would have, since the other prescriptions were collected.
Those are my questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
Cross-examination?
Bell, how are you this morning?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. So refresh me again, how many searches did you do in residence?
Myself personally,
Yes.
I was involved in 3 of them.
And the first, what was the date of the first one?
First one was January 29th.
And to your knowledge, was the resident secure between the time that Gannon went missing and when you did your search?
Secured in what
I mean,
way?
were other members of the family there? Were people coming in and out?
When I arrived on that day, I know at some point that Eugene Stauch returned back to the residence and remained on the upper level while I was working in the basement. And then throughout the other ones, I couldn't say for sure. It's my understanding that they were in and out of the residence.
And so before you got there on the 28th or on the 29th, how many people were in and out of the residence, like say the day prior? Do you have any knowledge of that?
Of family or
Family.
of law enforcement?
Of family, non-law enforcement.
I was made aware that Gannon's biological mother had been in the house the day prior, at least, or the evening prior. And beyond that, I don't know which family members had been in and out of the residence.
Or are there friends showing up to offer aid or anything like that? You're unaware?
That I'm not aware of. I wasn't at the door to see who came to the door.
Okay. And in regards to the carpeting, you had indicated that you've done some kind of testing with the fire department and with fire resistant material being put in the carpet?
Yes, so that was experimentation that was done several years ago, so not on specific carpet from this
Okay.
residence.
And that was my next question. Do you know, was any of this carpet tested to see if it actually is fire resistant?
I'm unaware if any additional testing was done on this carpet.
Okay. Or any testing to see how long you'd have to put a flame to cause the type of fire damage that we saw? That
Correct.
wasn't done?
I didn't do any of that on this carpet, and I don't know that it was done.
Okay. Thank you.
Redirect?
No, thank you.
Do any of the jurors have any questions for Ms. Bell? No? All right. Thank you, ma'am. You may step down.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Prosecution, call your next witness, please.
Or the people would call Harley Hunt to the stand.
Ms. Hunt, if you would step forward and raise your right. Oh, where is she? I just saw someone coming through the door.
Check. I was told he was right out here.
All right, Ms. Hunt, if you would step forward and raise your right hand, please, ma'am. A little farther forward. It's okay. It's all right. You swear affirm the testimony about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Go ahead and have a seat in the witness stand. Please watch your steps as you step into the stand.
Good morning, Ms. Hunt.
Good morning.
Could you please introduce yourself to the jury and spell your last name for the record?
Harley Hunt, Hunt.
Very difficult for you right now. We're going to get through this, okay? I'm going to ask you some questions and we're going to have a conversation.
Okay.
I want you to do the best you can, all right? Everything we say is being recorded, so if you can, speak as loud as possible. You can also pull that microphone closer to you if you like. Okay?
Okay.
How old are you, Harley?
I'm 20.
Okay. And who's your mom?
Letecia Stauch.
Is it the same Letecia Stauch who's seated to my left here in the middle of these two gentlemen?
Yes.
May the record reflect identification of the defendant subject to cross-examination.
The record will so reflect. Go ahead.
Have you lived with your mom your entire life?
Yes.
When was the last time you saw her in person?
The day that she was arrested.
Would that have been March 2nd, 2020?
Yes.
And was that in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina?
Yes.
Do you live out in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina now?
I do.
What do you do out there?
I go to college.
What are you studying?
Nursing.
How much longer do you have for that?
A year and a half.
Pretty excited about that?
Yeah.
Good. Things going well in school?
So far, yes.
Okay. I want to talk to you a little bit about your family. Back in 2015, 2014 timeframe, did your mother marry someone named Albert Stauch?
Yes.
And did Albert have kids of his own?
Yes.
What's his kids' names? Do you remember?
Lena and Gannon.
May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
I show you what's been introduced in evidence as People's Exhibit 1. Recognize that person?
Yes.
Is that Gannon Stauch?
Yes.
And Lena Stauch is his younger sister?
Yes.
What was your relationship with Gannon Stauch?
We had a good relationship. Of course, we had like a age difference. But I would always try to be there for them when I could.
Do you remember how old you were when Albert and your mom got married?
I think I was 12 or so.
How old was Gannon when that happened? Do you remember?
He was really young, 4 or 5.
And Lena was even younger than that, I would imagine. You remember how old Lena was?
Like 2 maybe or so.
And so did you also have a relationship with Lena?
Yes, I did.
Was she like a sister to you?
Yes.
And was Gannon like a brother to you?
Yes.
Although there's an age difference, especially probably when you got into your teenage years, right?
Correct.
I would imagine they may have been a little annoying for you a little bit.
Yes.
Is that fair to say? Okay. What about your mom's relationship with Gannon over the years? Can you start out perhaps when Albert and your mom got married? How was that relationship between Gannon and your mom?
Yeah, so it was different at first because we were like a blended family. So we were just getting used to, more people in our life. They had an okay relationship. There were problems here and there, but
Was there a point in time when Albert and your mom first got married where Albert didn't have custody of the kids?
yes.
And were things a little easier when the kids weren't around?
I wouldn't say easier. Having to go back and forth between, the weekends and everything with them were difficult because, Albert, of course, wanted his kids full time with him. So I just remember there being like a lot of problems with that. But
At some point, did Albert get custody of both Lena and Gannon?
yes,
And were they living with you all more of a full-time basis?
yes,
And did you observe the relationship between everyone at that time?
yes,
Did it seem to be, for lack of a better term, a normal family situation?
yes.
Um, what about your relationship with Albert? How'd that go?
We had a good relationship. When Albert first came in, it's when my dad passed away. So, that was difficult for me at first because I didn't want like my father to feel replaced. That's how I felt like in my heart. But as time grew, we got closer.
What was your father's name?
Chance.
Hunt?
Yes.
Do you remember when he died?
Yes. When I was 12 in October.
So would that have been October 2000? Help me out with the math here.
12 or 14.
Sometime in that time frame?
Yeah.
When your father passed away, were Albert and your mom married?
Yes.
Do you know how your dad passed away?
Yes.
How did he die?
An overdose.
And when did you first learn that?
This past week.
What were you told how he died before?
That someone came in and robbed him and killed him.
And who told you that?
My mom.
Had she ever told you the truth as to how your dad died?
No.
How'd you learn about that then?
The internet.
This case has got an enormous amount of attention on social media and the internet. Is that right?
Yes.
And you have actually gotten a lot of attention on the internet because of this case. Is that right?
Yes.
Very difficult you being here right now, testifying in this court.
Yes.
Is Albert Stauch, do you see him in the courtroom?
I do.
Seated in the front row in the gallery here?
Yes.
When Albert and your mom got married, where were you living?
Myrtle Beach.
And how long had you lived there before you moved to another place? Do you remember?
I do not remember the exact time. No.
In the beginning of Albert's and your mom's marriage, was Albert Stout going to training a lot, and was he away from the house quite a bit because of his job?
Yes.
And were there often times where it'd be just you and your mom in the house while Albert was out training?
Yes.
Were there other times where it'd be you, your mom, and Lena and Gannon?
Only when he was like at work or training. Yeah.
How did your mom feel about, or do you know, did your mom ever talk to you about how she felt about Albert being gone all the time and being at training?
Yes. She wanted him to be home more, especially when we had the kids with us.
And did she tell you whether or not she liked being at home alone with the kids?
She did not know.
At some point, did you move to Charleston, South Carolina?
Yes, we did.
Why did you move to Charleston, South Carolina?
For their job purposes.
Whose jobs?
Both my mom and Albert. My mom wanted to teach at a new school, and Albert was able to find like a job position there too.
And did your mom tell you why she wanted to teach at a new school?
Just to get away from Myrtle Beach.
Did your mom want to move frequently?
Yes.
Was that pretty constant throughout your relationship with her?
Yes.
And so how long did you live in Charleston?
Not long, maybe a year, if that.
And where did you go from Charleston?
Back to Myrtle Beach.
And why did you go back to Myrtle Beach?
Because my mom didn't like being in Charleston.
And did she tell you that?
Yes.
And so were you having to switch schools from Myrtle Beach to Charleston and then back to Myrtle Beach?
Yes, so I actually went back to school as well when we stayed in Charleston too.
And did you end up graduating from high school early?
I did, yes.
Tell the jury about that. How'd that happen?
I eventually, when we moved to Alaska, I did online school. So I did 2 years of that. So I ended up doing 3 years of high school.
So you graduated essentially from being in Alaska doing online studies?
Yes.
And we're going to get there in a minute, okay?
Okay.
Do you remember how long you lived in Myrtle Beach the second time?
No.
Did you know whether or not your mom and Al Stauch actually bought a house in Myrtle Beach?
Yes.
Tell the jury about that.
Once we moved back, they bought a house there that we had over a course of time, also when we lived in Alaska.
And was that the first home that was purchased between Al and your mom?
Yes, that was purchased.
And at some point, did Albert Stauch get orders to go to Alaska?
Yes.
Were you in the home at that time,
Yes.
the home that you purchased?
Yes.
Tell us, the jury, about that. What were the circumstances? What was the plan for you and your mother and the kids when Albert was sent to Alaska to be stationed there?
Yeah, so he was stationed there. And we still had our house in Myrtle Beach, and we would go back and forth from being in Alaska and Myrtle Beach.
And when you say we, who are we talking about?
Me and my mom.
Do you know where the kids were at this point in time?
Sometimes they would be with us in Alaska, and sometimes they would be back in Myrtle Beach with their mom.
And did you know their mother, Landon?
Yes.
Had you met her on occasion?
Yes.
And you see her in the courtroom today?
Yes.
Sitting in the second row back here?
Yes.
Was this in the time frame around 2017, 2018 when Albert was stationed in Alaska?
Yes.
And you said that you would go to Alaska on occasion and go back to Myrtle Beach. And you indicated it was you and your mom, right?
Correct.
How often would you guys go to Alaska?
We would stay in Alaska for like a month or so, and then we fly back to Myrtle Beach for a couple weeks and then fly back to Alaska.
Did you fully ever move to Alaska with your mother?
No.
And why is that?
Because we still had our house in Myrtle Beach, so we would go back and forth.
Did your mom ever talk to you about moving to Alaska?
What do you mean?
Well, did she ever tell you whether or not she liked being in Alaska?
Oh, she did not like being in Alaska, no.
And what did she tell you about that?
Because it was cold and she couldn't work there, and there was nothing to do.
At some point, were you up in Alaska with your mom and discussions were talked about moving to Colorado?
Yes.
Tell the jury about that.
I remember after like 3 or 4 years or so, Albert found out that he could move to Colorado and be stationed there. And we all were excited because it was better than being in Alaska.
Do you know whose idea that was?
My mom's.
And why do you say that?
Because there was an incident that happened in Alaska. I wasn't told much, but
Something that didn't want her or Albert to be in Alaska anymore?
Mhm.
You have to say yes or no. I'm sorry.
Yes, sorry.
Okay, it's all right. And so talk about the move to Colorado. When this decision was made to go to Colorado, did you still have this house in Myrtle Beach?
We did at first, and Then they sold the house. After it was sold, we drove everything to Colorado.
Did you have to fly back to Myrtle Beach and then drive across the country to Colorado?
Yes.
And was it Colorado Springs where you were going to?
Yes.
What was Albert doing as all this was happening? Do you know?
Don't remember.
Was he still in Alaska?
I don't remember. I don't know.
That's fine. Do you remember moving into the house 6627 Mandan Drive here in Colorado Springs?
Yes.
When you moved in, was Albert with you initially?
No.
Well, tell the jury about that. When did Albert come to Colorado Springs to live with you and your mother?
So when we got to Colorado after driving there, the kids came at some point, and then a couple weeks later, Albert came.
And would this have been early 2019
Yes.
timeframe? Now, how long did you live in that house before Gannon's death? Do you remember?
A year. We moved in January of 2019.
Was this year timeframe the first time that all of you were together during Albert and your mom's marriage?
Yes.
And first extended time for a year?
Yes.
Had you had an opportunity to see Albert and your mom together on numerous occasions?
Yes.
What was their relationship like? And I'm talking about when you're in Colorado, 2019 on.
It started to feel like we were a family again because everybody was there and like we were together.
Did they ever argue?
Yes.
How often would they argue?
Often
And how do you know they were arguing?
because you could hear them arguing.
And what would you do when that would happen?
Anna or Lena would come ask me why they were arguing. So like they would just come my room and I would turn the TV up or something because I didn't want them to have to listen to them argue.
Did you ever get pulled into these arguments?
Yes.
Tell the jury about that.
They would be arguing about something and then it would be like, well, isn't this true? Or like ask my opinion, try to get my say-so on it.
And who would ask you your opinion to get your say-so?
My mom.
Did you ever ask your mom, say, why do you pull me into these arguments to get my opinion?
Yeah, I just said like, I don't want to be a part of this.
And what did she say in response to that?
Would just keep asking and then they would keep arguing.
I want to go forward to January of 2020 now, right? Well, let me go back to Christmas of 2019. Did Gannon and Lena, were they with their mom during the holiday period?
Yes, I believe we celebrated Christmas early with them.
Did they go back to South Carolina to be with their mom over the holidays?
Yes.
Did they eventually come back?
Yes.
And would that been now January 2020 when they came back to the house?
Yes.
Now, was your mom working here in Colorado?
Yes.
Where was she working?
At a school.
Do you remember what school?
I don't remember the name of it, no.
French Elementary sound familiar?
Yes.
Was that the school she was working at?
Yes.
In January of 2020, do you know whether or not Albert and your mom were planning to go on a cruise to celebrate their anniversary?
Yes.
Tell the jury about that.
It was a couple-day cruise that they were planning to go on. That was towards the end of the month.
Okay. And did they go on a cruise?
They did, yes.
Where did they go on this cruise? Do you know?
No.
What was going to happen with you and Lena and Gannon while they were gone on the cruise?
She hired a babysitter.
And did you know this babysitter?
No,
Do you know why she hired a babysitter?
no,
And you were how old at the time?
17.
And had you watched the kids before?
Yes,
Had you watched the kids overnight before?
yes.
How did that? Did you ever ask your mom, why are you getting a babysitter? I'm here.
Yeah.
How'd she respond to that?
I don't remember. I just remember being like really upset about it.
Do you remember this babysitter's name?
No,
Had you ever seen her before?
no,
Have you ever seen her after?
no.
When they get back from the cruise, how long were they gone? Do you remember?
I think it was the weekend. Weekend.
So was it a 3-day weekend or a long weekend or was it just Saturday, Sunday?
I don't remember exactly.
When they come back, how was Albert's and your mom's relationship at that time?
It seemed fine. I think his mom came to visit after that too.
When you say his mom, are you talking about Albert's mom?
Albert's mom, yes.
And how long did she stay?
Only a few days.
On January 25th of 2020, did Albert have to go to another training?
Yes.
Tell the jury about that. Do you know where he was going?
I think it was Oklahoma.
And do you know how long he was to be gone?
No.
Was it longer than a couple days?
Yes.
Was it longer than a week?
I don't know.
Okay, not a problem. So, do you remember when he actually left to go on that training?
You mean like the exact day or?
Yeah, if you do you know?
No. It was like close to the time that his mom came. It was like a couple days after, I think.
Did he leave with his mom when he went to the training?
I don't remember.
Why don't we do it this way? Do you remember January 26th of 2020?
Yes.
And was that the day that you were supposed to go on a hike with your mother, Gannon, and Lena?
Yes.
Did Albert leave the day before?
I don't remember.
Okay. I don't remember. That's fine. Was Albert Stauch there on the day that you were going to go on a hike?
No.
So was he in Oklahoma or on his way to Oklahoma, or do you know?
Yes.
You just don't know when he left.
Right.
Is that fair? All right. So January 26, 2020, that's a Sunday. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Did you recall going to church with your mother and Gannon and Lena? that
No, we
Sunday?
did not.
And is that something you would remember if you did go to church that day?
Yes.
And on January 26, 2020, were you scheduled to go to work that day?
No, I was not scheduled.
Did you go to work that day?
Yes, I got called in.
And tell the jury about that. Where were you working and why did you get called in?
I was working at Massage Envy. And I think they were like short staffed or somebody called out. That's why I got called in.
And was that unusual?
No.
Would other employees get called in kind of last second if someone calls in sick, that kind of thing?
Yes.
And what Massage Envy were you working at back in January of 2020?
First in Maine.
Where is that within the city? Do you know?
It's near like shopping complexes. I don't remember exactly where it was or road names or anything.
Is it in the northern part of the city?
Yes.
Off of the Powers Drive over there?
Yes.
Okay. How long would it take you to get to work?
25, 30 minutes.
And you were living on kind of the south side of the city.
Right.
All right. So you go to work that day. So obviously you didn't get to go on the hike. Do you know whether or not your mom and Gannon and Lena went on a hike?
They did.
How do you know that?
She told me and I got sent pictures.
And whose idea was it to go on this hike? Do you remember?
No.
But it was a planned event where you were actually going to go on it as well.
Right.
Did your mom tell you anything about what had happened on the hike, in particular with Gannon while they're out at the hike?
Yes. She said that he had used the bathroom like in his pants, so they had to leave, go home
And how were you communicating with her?
through text.
And do you know where they went to go on a hike?
I think it was Garden of the Gods, but I could be wrong. I don't remember.
Your Honor, may I approach a witness?
You may.
I'm going to hand you what's been marked at 2:05. Do you guys, I don't know who's doing. May I approach you?
You may. Go ahead.
I'm going to hand you People's Exhibit 205, which is a notebook. Recognize that notebook?
Yes.
Do you have an opportunity to look at that last night?
Yes.
And do you know what that notebook is?
Yes.
And what is it?
It's text messages between my mom and I.
And are those text messages between January 25th, 2020 at 3:42 p.m. all the way January 29th, 2020 to 4:27 p.m.?
Yes.
And does those text messages in that notebook accurately reflect the conversations that you were having with your mom via text messages during that time period?
Yes.
This time we'd move to admit People's Exhibit 205.
Exhibit 205 will be admitted. Go ahead.
Now, in People's Exhibit 205, we're going to publish that and go through them, okay, Ms.
Okay.
Hunt? Would that help you kind of establish a timeline as to when conversations are being made?
Yes.
You can go ahead and publish 205, please. And Ms. Hunt, you can either look at the notebook
Okay.
or the TV screen, whatever's easier for you. So on the first page, we see a text on January 25th at 9:09 p.m. Do you see that?
Yes.
And do you know what that's regarding?
Something about our dogs.
Now, for the jury's benefit, there's a blue bubble and a green bubble up on the screen. Who is the blue bubble reference to?
I am the blue bubble.
So that's coming from your phone.
Yes.
And the green bubble?
From my mom.
And this, what we see on the screen behind us looks like a picture. See that?
Yes.
What is that picture of, you know?
Of one of our dogs.
And do you know why it says maybe Nicole there on the green bubble?
Do not.
Do you know that's your mom's phone number, right?
Yes.
And so do you remember having this conversation with her back on the 25th?
Yes.
Please. The next message says they are saying it may have been his daughters. Do you remember what that was a reference to?
No.
Is this about the same time when Kobe Bryant, the basketball player, died in a helicopter accident?
Yes.
And were you and your mom discussing that prior to you going to work that day?
Yes.
Do you know if that's in reference to perhaps Kobe Bryant's daughters being on the helicopter?
Yes.
And do you remember having that conversation now that I've said those things?
I do.
Okay. If we can scroll down, please. Now, we have a blue bubble that says daughter up at the top. Is that your phone number at the time?
Yes.
So you say, oh no. Is that right?
Yes.
Can you scroll down, please? That was with him? Is that what you say?
Oh no. Yes.
Okay. Can we go ahead and scroll down a little further, please? One up there. Can you go back? I'm sorry. Back, right there. All right, so we're now at January 26, 2020 at 5:11 PM. You're where at this time? Do you remember?
I'm at work
And do you know where your mom and the kids are?
on a hike.
So you say, where are you going? Right?
Yes.
Are you there at 5:11 PM?
Yes.
And you can look at the TV, it's easier to see it, okay?
Okay.
She says, get good. Can we scroll down? She says, food. Remember that?
Yes.
And why are you asking her where? Anywhere close to my work, I want chips.
Because I was hungry.
You wanted your mom to bring you some food, right?
Yes.
Do you remember having this conversation with her back then? Go ahead and scroll. Now, here she says, no, LOL, we are going up the street because Gannon pooped his pants. Is that the first time you hear about Gannon pooping his pants?
For that day, yes.
Had that happened before?
Previously, yes.
Did Gannon have some stomach issues?
Yes.
That wasn't too surprising to you when you saw this message?
No.
Was it surprising to your mom?
No.
You say OMG. What does that stand for?
Oh my gosh.
I think everyone knows that, but I hope you understand why I asked that. Okay. Can we go ahead and scroll down, please? So does she, what do you think she means when she says, yeah, all that movie?
Am like exercising or moving around.
Would that in the past cause issues with Gannon's stomach and cause him to have accidents?
To my knowledge, yes.
How did you get that knowledge?
What I was told.
Who told her?
I don't know.
Remember?
I don't know because it was said multiple times, so I don't remember.
No problem. We can go ahead and scroll down, please. Okay, let's stop right there, please. So now we're at the point, it's January 26th at 9:54 PM. Are you still at work?
Yes.
You remember getting this text message that we see on the screen now that says, do panic, but Gannon turned on a candle downstairs, set the downstairs on fire. I had to get the dogs and Lena out and run back downstairs and jump on him with a cover and put it out. I kept jumping on it.
Yes.
What were you doing at Massage Envy? What was your role?
I worked at the front desk.
So were you able to read these as soon as you got them or with customers or what was going on?
We were pretty busy often, so I was probably reading it in between.
And then she says at 9:54 and 52 seconds, he is fine, he is scared and saying sorry and freaking out. Do you remember getting that?
Yes.
And do you remember how you responded to these text messages from your mom?
Yes, I was reading them pretty quickly because I was at work and I thought she was saying that the fire was on our dogs.
And you know that because the text messages are coming up, or do you remember doing that?
I remember, yeah.
And tell us about your dogs. How many dogs did you have?
We had 2 dogs, a French bulldog and an English bulldog.
And when did you get those dogs? Do you remember?
A little before Christmas.
So shortly before all this happened?
Yes.
So December 19, 2019?
I think it was closer to like November.
And do you currently still have those dogs?
Yes.
What's their names?
Sadie and Chance.
What kind of dog is Sadie?
A French bulldog.
Chance is?
An English bulldog.
And Chance was named after who?
My dad.
Okay, we can go ahead and scroll down. So you say the fire was on Chance.
Yes.
Now, Are you saying this because you didn't really get a chance to read the text or what's going on here?
Yes, I didn't really get a chance to read it, and it was just like a lot, and I was so confused what was going on.
Would Gannon have a habit of lighting candles and hanging out in the basement by himself?
No,
Have you ever seen him light a candle and sit on the couch hanging out next to a candle?
no,
So eventually, when we scroll down, we'll see that your mom makes it real clear that it was Gannon that was involved in this candle. What were you thinking when you were getting these text messages?
none of the texts were fully clear. So they were really confusing at first. So I was kind of asking to elaborate.
Did she actually send you a picture of the area where this candle supposedly fell down?
Yes,
And do we see that now on the TV screen?
yes,
It says it was sent January 26, 2020 at 9:57 p.m.
yes.
Can we go ahead and scroll down again, please? So she says when you ask about Chance, she says, no, Chance was upstairs. The house is smoky. Do you remember her saying that to you?
Yes.
Scroll down, please. Said the first was on Chance. What did you mean by that?
I meant fire.
So did you think there was two fires or?
I thought that's what she meant the whole time, that the fire was on Chance, because she never said any names.
Go ahead and scroll down. A fire, and then she says, I jumped on him with a cover. Remember that?
Yes.
You ever talk to your mom about this text message on the phone or in person about what the heck are you talking about? What happened here?
I did once I got home.
Talk about that when we get there, okay?
Okay.
Let's go ahead and scroll down and look at the text message. And so you say, oh, okay, and she says, I never said Chance. Remember getting that?
Yes.
You said jumped on him, and you said OMG again, right?
Yes.
Says yes, but never said Chance. Read again. Remember her saying that?
Yes.
I just had a heart attack.
Yes.
Why did you a heart attack? But why did you say I just had a heart attack?
Because I thought that she meant Chance, and still no names were said. So I don't know who she was referring to at that point in time.
Did you eventually, as we'll see as we scroll down, find out that it was Gannon she was referring to?
Yes.
Obviously, when you get home, you find that out, right?
Yeah.
So you're asking where the other dog is, Sadie, right?
Mhm.
Yes or no?
Yes. Sorry.
And your mom responds she was in the chair.
Yes.
So you're concerned about the dogs.
Yes.
Go ahead and scroll down some more. And then you say OMG by the fire. Right?
Yes.
So your mom says that Lena grabbed Sadie and I grabbed Chance NR. Right?
Yes.
And did you talk to her about that when you?
Yes.
Dance, now all of us were upstairs. Do you remember her saying that?
Yes.
And scroll down. He was downstairs. You know who she was talking about when she said he was downstairs at that point?
Not until the next message.
So you say Gannon was downstairs.
Yes.
She says yes, right?
Yes.
During this conversation, is that the first time that you realized that Gannon may have been burned or was part of this fire situation?
Yes.
OMG. You ask her, how did he knock it over? Why did
Yes.
you ask her that?
Because at this point, I'm still confused of what happened or how it happened.
Was there some confusion based on your experience of Gannon not being the type of kid that would hang out by a candle in the basement?
Yes.
Scroll down. Says he said he must have fell asleep. You say, so it wasn't? I think you meant to say knocked over. Is that
Yes.
right? I don't even know how you pronounce that. And you can go ahead and scroll down. He says, yes, OMG, can you read? Sounds like a typical mother teenage daughter text conversation going on here, right?
Yes.
Other than the obvious fire situation.
Yes.
So how did you respond to that, you know?
Yes.
So she goes on and says, he must have knocked it over while asleep unless he was awake and lied. That sound like something Gannon would do?
I don't know because kids will lie sometimes, so I can't really answer that.
Okay, no problem. You can go ahead and scroll down some more, please. She says, but he acted sorry for sure. And you say AWW. What does AWW stand for?
Oh,
Like, oh?
no, like, oh,
Ah,
Yeah.
okay. So, do you remember about what time you got off work on the 26th during this text messaging process here?
yeah, it was late around like 10:30 or so.
If the information from Massage Envy says you clocked out at 10:18 p.m. on January 26th, would that be accurate?
Yes.
Just refreshing, Your Honor.
Yeah, what, you can ask her what time she thinks she clocked out.
Do you know approximately what time you clocked out and left work that day?
Yes, a little after 10 sometime.
In between 10 and 10:30?
Yes.
Do you remember what time you got home?
Takes me like 25 minutes or so to get home, so a little bit of time after that.
Did you talk to your mom on your way home from Massage Envy that night?
I normally tell her that I'm leaving, so probably yes.
And so, what do you see when you get home? Describe to the jury what you see in the house when you got home from work.
I get home. My mom and Lena are in the living room and they're telling me about the fire. Gannon wasn't upstairs at this point.
So, who you said they are telling you? Were both Lena and your mom telling you about what happened downstairs?
Yes.
What did your mom tell you at this point when you get home?
She told me that the candle was knocked over. She thinks that he was playing on his Nintendo when he wasn't supposed to be, so that maybe that's how he knocked it over. That after the fire, they ran outside and she called her fireman friend and asked if the fumes in the house were okay for us to go back inside, and they said yes. And she said that when they were in the street, Gannon was screaming that he hates his life and screaming different things.
What did you think about that last part your mother just told you about Gannon life?
I didn't think that the candle thing was a big deal, so it was just still so like confusing.
Was your mother concerned about Albert finding out about this and being upset about it?
Normally, Albert's not the one to get mad about like stuff getting messed up, so
When she told you about Gannon going out in the street and yelling that he hates his life and things like that, did that sound like the Gannon that you knew?
no, he hasn't done that before.
You said that it was Lena and your mom upstairs when you got home on the 26th after work.
Mhm.
Do you know where Gannon was at?
Downstairs.
Did you go downstairs?
Yes.
What did you see when you went downstairs?
Him laying in his bed,
Did you go into his room?
by the doorway.
Was he asleep?
I don't remember.
Did you talk to him?
No.
Was the light on in his room?
I don't know.
Is that the last time you saw him?
Yes.
Were there any windows open in the basement when you went down there?
Yes, the windows were open. It was cold down there.
How many windows were open down in the basement?
I don't know.
It was January 26th at, you know about what time it is now when you went down to Gannon's room?
It was a little later because my mom was like, let's go tell Gannon goodnight. So that's why we went down there.
Anything unusual about your mom saying, let's go tell Gannon goodnight?
Not something that she normally would do.
It's not something she would normally do?
Correct.
That's surprising to you when she said that?
Yes.
Did she go down there with you when you went to Gannon's room?
Yes, we both went down there.
Do you recall your mom talking to Gannon?
She said goodnight to him. She was like, goodnight.
Do you know whether or not Gannon responded?
I don't remember, no.
So was Gannon's bedroom window open as well?
I don't know.
Was it cold down in the basement?
Yes.
Did you sleep down in the basement that night?
No.
Where was your room within the house?
In the basement.
Would it have been close to Gannon's room or was it like on the other side of the basement area?
On the other side of the basement.
Was your room cold in there?
I don't remember.
Why'd you sleep upstairs?
Because it was cold downstairs. You could still smell like the fumes and like everything just felt like everything in the house just felt weird.
Why did it feel weird?
Because my mom made the comments. She was like, Gannon's acting weird. I don't know what's wrong with him. She said that she was scared.
Who else slept upstairs?
Lena.
Is there anyone else in the house?
No.
So it's you, your mom, Lena, and Gannon?
Yes.
Gannon's the only one sleeping in the basement?
Yes.
It's cold down there?
Yes.
Are we talking freezing cold or was it just colder than the upstairs?
Colder than the upstairs.
That's why you didn't sleep down there.
Yeah.
And where did you sleep? In particular, what bed?
In my parents' room.
Did you sleep with your mom in the same bed?
Yes.
There
Sorry.
you go. Okay, good.
Young, if you could find a reasonable breaking point in the next 5 minutes, please.
This is a good breaking point right now, Judge, if you like.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we will take our morning recess until 10:45. Again, do not discuss the case among yourselves. Do not discuss the case with anyone else. And see you back at 10:45. All rise for the jury, please. Thank you. May all be seated. Record should reflect the jury has left this fact to consist of the witness stand now if you would like to. All right, we'll be in recess. Thank you.
Rise.